Hello and welcome back to another out-of-spec detailing video from Clear Detailing here in Windsor, Colorado. I wanted to make this video as a second video to a Rivian R1T Build Quality Analysis as Rivian has started ramping up production. So this is a customer delivered Rivian R1S, and what I'm curious to see, how are the S's looking versus the T's? Are they better? Are they worse? Are they about the same? This is VIN right around 850, whereas the R1T we had was VIN 13,200, right in that area. So very curious to take a deep dive into the Rivian R1S build quality. Here we are with the forest green metallic Rivian R1S, a really nice color, the bright 20s and a black mountain interior. I'm gonna do a little bit deeper dive on the interior because this thing, in my opinion, looks really, really good as far as interior build quality. A few things here and there I'm gonna point out, but we'll go from there. Now, I've been in contact with this client since day one of him taking delivery of his R1S. He's pointed out a few things to me that I'm gonna show you in this video and also show you a few things that I've found. So this is quite interesting because we had what we believe to be gone through press vehicle, which was a Rivian R1S in Rivian blue. I'll leave a link in the description below so you guys can go check that out, maybe to compare and contrast between this customer delivered one. Now that truck was, I say truck, I understand it's an SUV, but that vehicle was VIN right around 140, I believe. So this is 700 or so later than that. First thing I want to show you guys, because he's been dealing with this a lot, notice that the rear door handle is presenting here, but not at the front. Now over on the other side, presenting how it should. So he's been having some issues with this, and he actually told me 90% of the time this handle does not pop out. The vehicle is unlocked right now. I can come in here and do that. I've even gone and tried to lock it, re-unlock it. Nope, it doesn't pop out. So what he's having to do here, which is not built as designed, is come in here, use it similar to a Tesla handle and pop it open, but it immediately goes closed again. Now, let me show you a few things that he's found on this truck that are quite weird. So back here, this is a little chip here. And you would say, oh, okay, well, it just got a rock chip. This is actually under the clear coat. So I think what happened here is Rivian had a dust nib. Also, I've seen a little bit of sanding stuff going on here, but there was a dust nib here. They took it off, didn't get paint on it, or took the physical color coat off and put clear back over it. This kind of drives him nuts. He said it's not the end of the world, but wanted to make that point. You can also see a little bit of compound in here. Hopefully that's coming through on camera, but that area has definitely been gone through. Speaking of paint issues, over here on the passenger door and quarter panel, let me show you this. So if I come down here, notice this little white chip right here. And that's also the same here on the door. So what he said was happening was he would open this door up and it would bind and basically just catch. And what Rivian did, from what I understand, is bend this piece. But what you can see now is that it doesn't fit quite right. Really don't love that at all. I want to make yet another point on the clear bra here that Rivian's putting on. Looks horrible, like always. This is every time I see these factory PPF installs, we already have fingers here lifting. This entire edge is lifted. We've got air pockets here, here, and here. The alignment's terrible. I really wish they would stop putting this on. I understand why they do so, but I see this on every single truck. Same with gear tunnel. Obviously R1S doesn't have that, but I see it every time. So let's first off just start with black plastic trim. We're gonna work our way around the vehicle because that's one of those things he has really kind of complained about, doesn't really love. Up front here, all looking really nice and tidy. This panel alignment also looks good. Now as I come back here, I wanna point this out. Look how much this is indented on the door here compared to the fender pulling out. Quite a massive gap there, if you will, especially down at the bottom. Now as I come over here, we have a similar thing, but the door is inset and this is actually out. So really not loving that alignment there. Hopefully you can see that. Also, massive gap there, not so massive there. You can also see the fender peeking out. Now this panel is quite a bit different than R1T, and I think they're having a little bit of alignment issues here because on both sides we have issues. This looks good down the side of the door, but as I come back here, look how unflush that is, really sticking out. Quite a massive gap there. Down here as well, you can see quite a big gap between that and the actual body. Not horrible, but definitely something I've been seeing. Coming back here on the rear quarter, this looks really, really tight and actually a lot better than the white R1T that I had in. Looking super good. Back here, there's a little bit of a gap. I think that's probably pretty normal because it's consistent all the way around. Now this one's got just ever so slightly a little gap here. I can definitely forgive that, but it should be a lot tighter because I've seen a lot of Rivians through the shop that this is tighter, but I've also seen some with a bigger gap. Now again, check this out here. This side is sticking out a lot worse. And also, if I pull on this, it doesn't even feel like it's clipped in at all. Really don't love that. And it sticks out quite a bit as you just kind of move this around, just keeps moving. Huge gap here, nice and tight down here. This gap between the rear door and front door actually looks pretty good. I would say that the driver's side sticks out ever so slightly, but a nice even line all the way up with the door. Really, really good there. This side on the front door, kind of same issues we are seeing on the other side where the front quarter sticks out a little bit. This is inset a little bit, but I will say door alignment looks pretty darn good. You could be nitpicky and say, okay, this is a little bit bigger than down here, and I would kind of agree with you, but it looks pretty darn good. Front fender plastic also fits really, really nice. Now that we've checked out all of kind of the black plastic, everything up here looks really nice and tidy, but I want to talk hood, charge port, everything like that. Charge port here looks really nice alignment, way better than the R1T that I saw. I will say it is extremely tight here on the actual headlight. So as I pop that open, it did almost look like it's touching. Maybe over time that will, but it's really tight there. Wouldn't say it's the end of the world, but definitely something to keep an eye on. Now hood alignment on this side looks pretty good. I would say quite a big gap here. I wouldn't call it horrendous. Nice and tight down here. I do feel that this hood fits a little slightly up compared to the actual front driver's side fender here. Not the end of the world. Nice and tight down here. This is pretty common with Rivians. Everything that I see is this sticks up a little bit more than the hood. Now, I want to talk about alignment of the lights here in comparison with the hood. What I saw on the R1T, quite a big gap here. We have very similar on this side, but I want you to notice this piece right above. Now as I pop over here, look how wonky this is. Really, really off. I'm not sure what's going on here and how that is so off, but this is like as tight as can be. Huge gap here, really tight here on the actual headlight, whereas over here, pretty even and very even. This is what I've seen kind of in the past. This side is very, very far off. That is just, yeah, really, really strange. Now on this side, this looks pretty reasonable here. A little bit tighter maybe than the other side. But as I come up here, notice quite a big gap. And then if I can show you here, hood's actually sticking up like this. This definitely needs to come down a little bit and move around. So far what I've seen though, as far as the actual body panels, it looks pretty good. I would say biggest complaint on the exterior so far would be all of the black plastic. This looks really nice and tight on the actual door to fender, really nice and tight there, and really nice and tight there. A lot of the things we saw in the press R1S, we're talking up here. This actually looks pretty decent. There is kind of similar to what we saw, a big gap here, and it gets extremely tight here, but it actually looks pretty darn good. Now, I want to talk about this rear cap. I think this rear cap is going to be an issue for Rivian in the future. So this is actually a molded plastic piece, and it's quite a big piece. But as I pop up here, let me show you this. So this is sticking up quite a bit more Very similar on the other side, but look at this panel alignment here. As I move this around, pretty tight here as far as to the roof, but a massive, massive droop in the center there next to the shark fin. Also noting some almost impression dents here as I move this around. But yeah, really, really not aligned well as I try and move around here. Look at the difference there. Not quite the greatest. I will say on this one, which is actually really, really good, the alignment up here from the glass to this front roof cap look extremely good. A lot tighter. I'm glad that the glass isn't sticking above the center of this. Now, I do want to talk about really quick back here on kind of the tailgate area. This is looking pretty good. This is all pretty tight. This sticks out ever so slightly here. Tail lights look pretty decent. The gaps are pretty similar on both sides. This sticks out ever so slightly more than this, but also the same on this side. This is actually, I guess that I'm looking at it now, a little bit tighter here than it is over here. Wouldn't call it the end of the world, but the glass looks all good on the inside. Now, this is one thing I've seen on these that's kind of strange. So you go to press this, and it takes a second. So you kind of are pressing that multiple times, but I've seen that on all R1Ss. I just want to quickly run through and talk about this piece on the passenger side because the driver's side actually looks pretty decent, but this piece is a little off. So as I first said, this is definitely raised up a little bit compared to this end cap, but I want to make a note of how clear this is, and then it gets really hazy, weird texturing going on here, but look at all of the dirt and debris under this. So this is actually dust nibs here. So I believe what's happened is this has been repainted. This piece down here also has some weird dust nibs in it. Maybe you can see it right in here. There's some sanding stuff going on. Not sure exactly what's happening, but I want to focus mostly on this piece. Now I'm going to bring you over here and show you this. This is a paint meter. This has been quite controversial. People saying this is not calibrated right. So these are actually my calibration strips here to make sure that this thing is actually reading correctly. So I'm going to place it down here. Should be around 3.94 mils, 3.91. Exactly what we're looking for. Maybe we'll do this for good measure. Should be around 9.84, give or take a few percentage. So around the same. What I saw up here, not looking so hot. So if I read this area that has lots of dust nibs, 2.90, 2.71, 2.34, 3. Really low in these areas up here because I think this has been taken off the truck at one point, resprayed, maybe even at the factory. The readings are all over the place. That's still quite a bit lower than I would like to see. Now, as I come back here, this panel definitely had quite a bit more paint on it, 7.91. And this is typical to what we saw on our press R1S, is this rear quarter had quite a bit more. Let me come up here just quickly and show this. 3.83. Pretty consistent. So a lot of paint going on back here, very similar to what we saw on R1S. I think for the exterior, we're pretty good. I did want to make a note, all of the seals up here, everything, all of the black piano black trim looks really, really good on this truck. Nice and even alignment on this, same on the other side. Really, really impressed with that. But let's jump into the inside and see how this is going. Now, I've had a little bit of time to look around the interior of this R1S in particular, and I have to say I'm pretty darn pleased. There's a few things, not the end of the world, but things that I want to make note of. On the R1T, I had this trim in here was pretty horrible on the driver's side. I'm also going to leave a link in the description to that video so you can go compare and contrast those. Everything is looking pretty awesome. I'm always been pretty darn impressed with Rivian interior quality. One thing we had on the R1S is the backside headliner was actually not even in. I am also glad to say that that is not the case in here, and the headliner actually looks extremely nice on here. All the panels back here have no play in them, unlike the R1T I just had in. Everything really looks pretty darn good. I want to come over to the driver's side and talk about the wood, because I know that's been kind of a thing I've heard about. Again, still door handle not being presented here. really quite frustrating, especially if 90% of the time that's not opening. Now, this one looks quite a bit better as far as the wood. You can see that there is this ever so faint crack here. From what I understand, they're doing that on purpose to relieve some stress on here. I'm curious to see how these are going to wear, because some of the other ones that I've seen have spread out. One side's kind of flaked up a little bit. Really quite concerned as, you know, the trucks go maybe into the desert and heat up and then go into frigid temperatures. What is this going to do on the inside? I'm surprised that they don't do anything like that here and on like really, really tight edges. Now this truck's interesting. I've never seen two relief points here and here. Normally I see them on the driver's side and never on the passenger side, but this side does indeed have a little bit of that. Now on the wood trim here, my customer noticed that when he took delivery, there's some weird kind of marks on this, and Rivian did offer to replace this. He said, let's not worry about it, but let's also keep an eye on it. Everything in here though, guys, looks extremely nice. All of these seats, I have seen this be an issue on some of these. Yes, they do pull out, but this is a plastic bit, you know, that's meant to kind of take some abuse there. But all the seals here look extremely, extremely tight. Really, really glad to see that. Again, on this side, same thing. Really tight seals here. Stitching looks good on seats. All the buttons work. I still wish Rivian would kind of work on this seat. It seems very tricky to do, you know, as far as you push this back and then it locks in this weird position and you have to come in here, you have to move this. Ugh. Trying to do this one-handed is tricky. And then now the seat's still sitting up at an angle that nobody would want to sit at. So you have to, again, click this. Really don't love that. Everything though on the inside looks extremely, extremely good. I think that's kind of been a good wrap up though of the Rivian R1S. There's some really good things going on and some things that I really think they could work on. Really could work on some panel alignment. I am quite concerned on that passenger side roof rail as to what's going on here. This one looks pretty darn good. I actually just noticed a big dent right here. Yeah, something I've noticed for sure. My customer also noticed that on his A-pillars here, it was very similar to the T, where the clips are actually holding it in, have a similar dent. You can see the little ripple right there. Same thing. I don't think it's the end of the world. One of those things that may catch your eye every so often, but not too bad. Hope you guys enjoyed another out of spec detailing video. Let me know what cars you would like to see a build quality analysis on. Do you have an R1T that's come in? Does this make you nervous? To me, I just want to make a note of this. I do have an R1S on order, okay? I really like these Rivian trucks. What I do want to say though is I don't think any of these issues would deter me from buying a car. I really don't. Unless it gets horrendously bad to where like panels are completely falling off, I really think I would still take delivery of one of these. I would like some issues to be fixed, and that's the hope and goal with these videos, is for Rivian to see something like this and go, oh, maybe we can improve that. Maybe our QC can catch that. I think the issue is production hell, I think is in reality of what's going on. You know, Rivian's ramping up production, trying to get all of these trucks out with huge, huge demand, and they're seeing how difficult it is to build vehicles at scale. Hope you guys enjoyed another out of spec detailing video. We'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.